Welcome back everybody, Steve here from the Pinball Room. Today we're going to talk about the very next steps after the last video of using Mark's ShowCreator to create basic light shows. Today we're going to go through and cover taking those files that get exported from the ShowCreator and actually loading them up and using them inside our MPF config files and our show files to go through and play at the right time. I've got an attract sequence for my machine. So that attract sequence, right when you go through and first turn on the machine, starts doing a display, or anytime in between games, it'll revert back to this and start doing some different light shows, right? So I've got something put together. I want to walk you through the steps of how I got there, because there's a few little gotchas here and there. At least there were for me. If you've gone on ahead and done this before, maybe this is old news for you. You've already got all this stuff figured out. But for me, my first time into MPF and doing full-on light shows and figuring out how to kind of like stack them together in order and get them to loop correctly, and there's a handful of little things that it took me a little bit to kind of figure out, get my head around. It's not hard, so I'm going to go through and just kind of show you a few of those simple things, and hopefully you'll be off and run to the races even faster than I was, all right? So first thing, we're going to jump back onto my PC where I've got Mark's ShowCreator. And again, this is one of my favorite shows. It's going kind of slow and lagging because of the Camtasia recorder I'm using. It's kind of slowing things down. But this is the one where it just kind of has these rings, right? And so as that ring spreads out, as it overlaps an insert, that insert is going to get turned on for a moment of time and then turn right back off. And you stack 3 or 4 of these together and you have kind of like this nice like ripple effect. And I really like that look. So that's one of the light shows I've got incorporated here. So we go through and we play it like that. And now if I hold Shift P, remember that's the shortcut. It'll run through the sequence again on your screen, but it's also going to create the YAML file that you need. And it's going to put it in the ShowCreator folder called output1.yaml. If you do multiples, it'll be output 1, output 2, etc. And we're going to take that file and I'm going to send it across to my Mac, which then I can record without all this lag. We're going to take a look at it. I'm going to show you exactly what that file looks like on the inside and start talking about the reasons of why I've made a few edits here and there. And then from there, we'll go into how I'm actually kind of stitching all these together into a show that's going to go through and show all these different light show animations. All right? Okay. So we've got that exported. All right. So I move that over to shows, which is inside my MPF repository. I'm going to go through here. Looks like I need to pull my origin. Going over to GitHub, and I'm going to sync this through GitHub Desktop up to my repo in the cloud, where then I can access it on my Macintosh computer, and that'll allow me, I can work on either machine and updates the files back and forth. It's really slick. That's a whole nother thing, but man, I really am enjoying that. Let's go through and look at that file that it created. So it starts out the way it's supposed to. It's got show version 5 up here in the top left, time 0. You're always going to start at time 0. And then we have a lights declaration. Time 0, what's going to happen? Lights. We're going to play our lights. And which light are we playing? We're going to start with LED number 18, which if you recall, I'll open up my Figma here where I've got all my LEDs labeled out here on my play field. So if you remember, insert 18s is one kind of right here at the top in the center. And with the circle starting right there as it pulsed out, 18 is the very first one it hit. Okay, so it's going to say the very first thing it's going to do is turn on light 18. Okay, just barely. It's the color is 000001. If you're familiar with hex code colors, all 6 of those numbers being 0, 2 for R, 2 for G, 2 for B. If they're all 0, it means everything's turned off. So it's just black. So this is barely turning on the blue, just a little bit. And then LED 18 is getting turned off. It's just flashing it on and off. It's not even necessarily going full blue. Full blue, the opposite end of 00 is FF. FF, remember, means like full power on that LED. And so we're not getting up to FF very far whatsoever. So it's really just going to kind of like flicker it on and off pretty quick. And then time plus 1, the next thing down here, means that it's going to say there's going to be 1 second of time between the prior step and this step that we're about to declare. And each one of those, that's just the default. Everything is 1 second. And that's fine, because it doesn't necessarily mean that's how much time's actually going to wait, right? Like a full second between, see, that's really slow. 1 Mississippi. When we go through and actually tell MPF to play this show, we can adjust the speed and make it be as fast or slow as we want, all right? So that's a cool thing. So Mark's ShowCreator is spitting out files where everything is just right at time plus 1. Nice and simple. We don't need to mess with it. We'll control the speed through another area inside our config file. So that's great. No need to change any of that here in this file. And you'll see as we move through here, there's like, okay, here's just an empty set of time. No changes frame. Just take another step. We're going to add a little bit of time. And then we're going to change LED number 27. And then 27 is going to go off. 29 is going to come on. And the next step, 29 is going to go off. And light 92 is going to come on. And then the next step down here, 92 is going to go off. Okay, so you can see it's alternating things on and off, okay, through each of this, which is exactly what we want that show to do. we want things to be turning on and off as in kind of this circular like ring animation, right? Okay, so everything's great. Now we could take this file, go right ahead and play it directly inside our MPF monitor and preview it, and we're gonna get a pretty good result. In fact, let's just go through and do that right now. Why not? Okay, MPF monitor started up. We see our playfield over here. Okay, and now we're gonna go back and we're gonna start another window, another terminal window. Now we're gonna start up MPF. We'll have another Python window open up here, and it should start up and start playing our slides. There we go. And over here in this window, it's doing our light show animation. Can you see it? You see the blue lights? They're going pretty fast. Just kind of shoom. Starts here. You can kind of down here at the bottom half, you can see them kind of flickering through. 1 and 2. Okay, that's working. Maybe it's going a little slower than what we want. Does it look like every single light is turning on? Be honest. These big ones, I can see them turning on. Some of these smaller ones, like number 18 and 19 and 20, like my stand-ups there, they seem like they're flashing. Maybe I'm going a little too fast again. But this is one of the things that I ran into where with the ShowCreator, it's doing it's doing some complicated stuff. That ShowCreator is trying to go through and really interpolate the colors you put into it also. Okay, slowed it down. Now we're getting a little bit more clear blue color on lots of these inserts. But again, like look at over here, these stand-ups. It is hitting them. Boom, 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 boom. Now I wish I had my actual physical LEDs set up onto my machine so I could really verify that all these are turning on as brightly and as much as I want them to. I feel like, you know, insert 19 here in the center, I don't really see it doing much. This one, they're flashing so quickly. Are they really all hitting that solid blue? Well, the thing I found is that Mark's ShowCreator is going through and setting the absolute value of the color for each of these. And they're not all set at 0, 0, 0, FF, right? There's kind of everything in between. And because it's trying to go through, I guess, and like interpolate and figure out what that color should be, either for the amount of time, I'm just trying to handle like a little bit of fade or... So for me, one of the things I wanted to change from what Mark's ShowCreator file gave me was I wanted to have more control over my colors. I want them to be exactly the hex value I wanted. Remember, we kind of played around with insert colors. There are certain hex values for the blues that I like versus the others. So I don't just necessarily want, you know, just red or green or blue or just straight blends. I want a little more subtlety to those colors. And the way we can do that is through what's called a show token. And so instead of putting in here the LED and then a specific color value, we can put in a variable or a token, okay? And then we can control that variable through another file and have it change to whatever we want it to be, okay? So here's his file. I went through, what I did was I did a quick find and replace. It was just a little bit tedious, but we did it. I did a find and replace. So every color that wasn't just 6 zeros, right? Straight black or everything being off. So the 0000001, 0000 FD, 91 FD, F8, all these other ones that were kind of these shades of blue that his ShowCreator was creating, doing this like interpolation. I went through and did a find and replace and made all of them look like this. I called mine full playfield pulse ring is what I'm calling this show. Same thing here. And now LED 18, 19, and 94, I'm gonna have all those turn on at once. They now say color 1 in parentheses, okay? And that is the variable name I gave my token. You can call it whatever you want, color 1, special color, just color, whatever you want to call it, right? This is something you control. And then you'll see down here, I've got, you can also, instead of saying, you know, set the color to just straight zeros for black, you can also just use the word off, okay? And this makes sure that it actually like turns it off, says, oh, there's no active command. So if some other show is competing or anything, it'll be able to go through and still show its color. It won't have this other color of black kind of like overriding it. Anyway, that might be a little confusing. Sorry if I explained that very well, but there's two ways you can turn an LED off. You can set it to the color of black, which means 0 value of light across RG or B, or you can just say off, and it will literally just kind of like in the code, it'll set it to the 0000, but also, if I understand correctly, just kind of like clear it out of MPF, meaning, oh, there's nothing really currently assigned to this color. So if there's some other lower priority show that was trying to set a color that this show temporarily overwrote, once this show ends or tells MPF that the LED is off, the underlying show maybe had it set to red will come back into effect. And so it's important for when you're like layering light shows. Okay, sorry, hope that made sense. Anyway, two ways to turn it off: set it to black or just use the word off. So I'm using the word off because I feel like it's going to be a little more clean. For all intents and purposes, I'm done with this show. So if there does happen to be another show going on underneath, it can come back and have priority again. Now, again, if you don't want that, then you might not want to use the word off. Okay, enough of that. So this shows tokens. It's kind of like variables for setting the color, and then the word off. So this is now just kind of a clean one where there is no color defined. It's all going to be driven by this token, right? So you can see them getting kind of turned on and off at each step, right? And then what I did, let's go back to our main attract show here. I'm having this actually show my attract light show loop. So I'm nesting my specific show file, the full playfield pulse ring YAML file is the specific show that has the animation code in it, right? What colors, when things are turning on and off. That's like the most bottom level, okay? The actual control of every LED. Right above that, I have a show called Attract Light Show Loop. And what this does, this is another show, but it's calling individual sub-shows. That way I can have multiple shows going on like at the same time. I can also have one go after the other, okay? So this is something you're gonna need to do on your own. Mark ShowCreator doesn't handle the actual configuration for your animation. That'd go well beyond what his ShowCreator is doing, right? His ShowCreator is letting you go through and do this bottom level animation, which is really the most time consuming. So it's really great he made this app because it saves you a lot of time. All I had to do was go through and do some search and replaces. So now I've got tokens going on. Otherwise, I'm using his ShowCreator file that it gave me, almost verbatim to what he gave me, right? I've changed a couple of the timing things here and there, but virtually I haven't changed it, okay? So then I have the next level up from that, I have this attract show loop is what I'm calling it, the light show loop. And in here, I have, instead of a time declaration, I have a duration declaration. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna play a show and it's gonna last about 2 seconds, or I want it to last for about 2 seconds. So if it takes longer than the 2 seconds, it means it's gonna get cut off at 2 seconds. If it only lasts a second, it means there's gonna be a second of like dead air on my lights, like nothing happening. Okay, so you wanna kind of keep that in sync with how long your show actually takes. And you can like kind of calculate it out. I just kind of guesstimated and then kind of adjusted till, okay, it's now ending and not getting cut off. There's no extra time. Okay, it's about 2.5 seconds, 2.25 seconds. Okay, you'll play around with that. But I said, okay, about 2 seconds, and then I want a show to play. So here's my shows declaration. What show do I want? Well, I have a show called GI on. I'm just telling my machine to turn on all my LEDs that have the tag general illumination. I want them to turn on. I want that to be going indefinitely, okay? I set a speed, I don't know if I really needed that. But over here, the specific show file, my GI on, is simply time 0, time 1, lights with the GI reference, turn them to white. It means I just want all my general illumination to turn white around my playfield, okay? And that's gonna be playing at the exact same time. See, there's no new duration declaration, still inside this same list of shows. Okay, I also, within those 2 seconds, want this show to be played, which is called L for left stand-ups chase. So it's this little miniature chase sequence I created just for those stand-ups and drop targets on the left side of my playfield. Let me see if I have that one open here for you. If not, I will open it. Here's what that file looks like. L stand-ups chase. Okay, again, this is the specific file controlling LEDs. So I've got my time entry of starting at 0, and then I've got a time 1, kind of a kill time in between the last show for transition. And then, okay, lights number 24 is gonna turn on this certain color. It's gonna be on for about 3 seconds, and then it's gonna overlap with LED 26. LED 24 is gonna turn on, LED 26 is gonna continue on, overlap with LED 28. So let's go back to Figma. What are those? Here they are, 24, 26, 28, and then 30. So it's saying turn on this one for a couple of seconds. Well, we're gonna speed it up for, half second or so, and then blend into number 26, turn off 24, blend into 28, turn off 26, blend into 30, turn off 28. And then I've actually got it going back. I have it then reversed. You'll see here it starts up to 30. I have 30 turn off. It waits like another half second or so. Then it starts to go back. Now it says turn on light number 30, okay? And then light number 28, turn off 30. So now I'm going back the other direction. So it's a simple chase of going down and back up. That's all this does, is just those 4 LEDs. That's all it controls, okay? And why is that? If you remember, we were talking about our play field. In the last thing, I said it's really good lots of times to think about your LEDs in like little groups or chunks. Now it depends on the animation, right? I've also got that pulse ring one, right? It's just going out and hitting all the LEDs in a pulse, okay? So it's the whole entire play field is happening. But I've also got another set of shows here I'm talking about, right? This first set where all my GI is gonna turn on white so you can see my play field. And then I'm gonna have this little set of, I don't know if you can see my cursor, this little set of inserts over here on the left, chasing up and down. The ones next to it are chasing down and up. They're going to kind of the reverse direction, up and down in its own little show. That also is going to get called at the same time. In fact, you can see it over here in Nova. So we had, here's my loop. I've got my GI getting turned on. I've got the stand-ups being in a chase, and I've got those left drop targets in a chase. I've got my right stand-ups, just those three in a quick chase going back and forth, okay? And then I added a little comment here so I know what else is going on. And then I've got what I'm calling my main shots doing a chase, okay? And that is all these arrows here that have like a hurry up and then an arrow. Wherever there's just a series of just these two lights here going, I've got a little chase where it goes 90, 91, 90, 90, 91, 21, 22, 22, 21, just again, in and out, in and out. I've got a show that does all of those. And then I've got a show that does the ones that does 3 lights in a row, 18, 19, 20, 88, 86, 85, 89, 84, 83, 94, 3, 93, 20, and 92, all those. Anyway, those are kind of going in and out. Actually, 89, 84, and 83 actually has 4 because it goes up to 81. Anyway, so I kind of broke these up into separate little chases, go in and out, in and out. And then in my code, I've got inside this single declaration of duration and shows. So all these shows are being called at the same time. I want all these shows to be happening at the same time and going for about 2 seconds. They each have their own speed I can set, okay? All the rest of them other than the GI have loops of 1. They're gonna loop twice. I want them to do their in and out twice, okay? I've got those main shots. I've got my albums LEDs, so I broke those out into their own thing. So these down here, the 5, so I've got, you know, starting from the 5 on the inside, going to the outside and back in. Those are doing their own thing. My in lanes and out lanes, all those lights are doing things in. The lights up here that are going up for my for those inline drops for the bonus X, 17, 16, 15, 14, those 4 are going up and then coming back. I've got these little pill inserts here, right, by the captive ball, 78, 74, they're going up and coming back. 7 through 2 going up and coming back. So I've got all these little like kind of like chase sequences. They were easier to go through and build up each one of those as their own little animation because I can use those at different points, at different parts of different modes. I can reuse that. And since they all just are set to their color being a variable, whenever I say, oh, okay, I want those things to animate in like a chase pattern, I pull up that show, I say I want to play it, and then you'll also notice in here, under each one of these, I've got a show tokens declaration, and then a color 1, that's the name of the token I put in the lowest level file, and then I give it a color. Okay, I want it to be red right now. Okay, you'll see I go through and I play all these at red. And then it says down here, okay, now I've got a new duration. So after all those play for 2 seconds, now for the next 2 seconds, I want to play these shows. Well, guess what? I'm playing all the same shows, but now I'm having them play green. 00, FF, 00, that's my green on all the way. Okay, I go through and do all those, and they'll do another duration of 2 seconds, and all those are going through and doing blue. So what does that mean? It means there's actually not just the chase sequence being done twice, but it's going to be done twice in red, twice in green, twice in blue. So that's kind of like this first set of animations. Things just kind of like chasing through to some different colors. Okay, and then after that, we've got some different things going on down here in duration. Now I've got this full playfield grows albums out. Okay, where it's just going to kind of flood the whole entire field. So, all right, kind of getting long-winded. Sorry. What this is going through and showing you is you can go through and you can take your most basic animation files, these little show files for your light animations, and have it control whatever LEDs you want. So there are going to be times you're going to want very discrete sets of LEDs you're going to be controlling. I like to go through and put in a color token or a show token for color where I can say, you're going to have a color, but the show that plays this show, so more like the parent show, is going to define what color that child show is going to be. And that way I can just reuse that bit of code. Just call that one show. Oh yeah, we want that chase sequence for this mode also, but we want it to be purple. We want it to play for 5 seconds instead of 2 seconds. Like you can control that in that specific mode, right? Now, right now I'm doing my attract mode just when the game is, in between games, right? My machine's on, there's no game playing because I haven't gotten to building out my modes yet, my game modes, right? Anyway, so, and I've got this kind of stacking. So I'm doing all my chase animations, and then my parent show is saying, hey, and then after you do all those quick ones, now let's do some full playfield sweeps of like colors. I've got some different shows that do that. I've got the one that does the whole like that pulse or like that ring ripple effect. That one's getting called in here to do here. It says full playfield pulse ring. I sped that one up to 25. Again, right now I'm just kind of going through red, green, and blue. I'm going to set final colors once I actually get my physical LEDs set up and I really start seeing what colors I like. Then I'll dial in the colors similar to we did in that last, or one of the previous videos, right? Messing with the actual inserts and colors. So I'll come back around, I'll just change it in this file, and then all the other ones will automatically update to whatever colors I want. So I think that usage of the token is pretty dang slick. I plan on using that pretty much everywhere. Now, I'm just doing a basic rudimentary usage of this token. I believe from what I read in the docs, I haven't got there yet, it's beyond me, but I think you can do a little more and kind of dynamically control what that color is through some other variables. I'm not there yet, but I think we're just scratching the surface of what tokens can do. And it's not just for color, you can use tokens for color, you can use it for, I think, a couple other things, I forget what. It's in the docs. But anyway, I'm using it first and foremost for color. I think it works great. Okay, the other thing we're doing here in a couple of these shows, let's see. So here's a show where I want just the whole play field just to turn on and just kind of pulse through colors, just kind of like a heartbeat, you know, boom, boom, up and down. And it's not gonna like sweep or really animate. The whole playfield is gonna be going, well, instead of me going through and calling out, you know, LED 1 through 99, actually I think I'm gonna break probably closer to 110 when I'm all done. Instead of calling all those out and then saying, hey, color 1, you can also go through and you can use like a token or a tag, tag. You can use tags, let's start talking about tags now. You can also go through and use a tag to call a group of LEDs. If you remember, I think we talked on this in one of the other shows, other videos just briefly. There is a lights file, which is just your general declaration. Hey, here's all my LEDs. Here's the channels they're on. This is the type. And then you can add in the subtype LED and then the tags. I added in tags for GI for the LEDs that I knew were going to be just my general illumination ones. Playfield inserts for all the ones that are actual playfield inserts. And then chain 1 and chain 2, because I've got a chain coming down from the different nano board, right, controlling them. And those are the only tags I've done for right now. But what that allows me to do is on this show over here, my full color fade stuff, instead of having to do LED 1 through LED 99, I can just call up a tag and say the name of the tag, chain_1. That's the name of my tag. This took me a minute. I thought I had to do like parentheses, like the tokens. I was confusing those, no parentheses. Instead of saying LED_01, LED_03, you know, you just put in the tag. So I can put in GI, like you saw in my GI one, it says GI. That's it, that's the tag. And then a color. Well, for this one, I put in chain 1 and then a color, chain 2 and a color. So all those LEDs are gonna turn on at once. Now, I could just say playfield, but for this one, I wanted my GI and everything to be turning these colors, right? And when they're off, like the whole playfield is gonna be dark. So I have the tag chain 1 and chain 2. I'm using the token of color. And then after that, you'll notice it says hyphen and then F 800 milliseconds, MS for milliseconds. The F stands for fade. And fade, man, I got to go back through and add a little more to the docs and give a couple better examples because it was taking me all afternoon yesterday to figure out how to work this stupid fade. There's lots of different ways you can do fades. I'm not pretending to say I figured all of them out. But the two things I figured out that works for me, in your main lights file, up at the top, you can go through and say, hey, here's my lights, LED 0, LED 1, LED 2. You can also go do this section up here of light settings. And one of the settings you can give it is a default fade of milliseconds, saying if a show does not, if no other show ever defines a specific fade setting, just generally when you do a show, we were doing a very, very subtle fade of 75. So it doesn't completely just turn on or off in a heartbeat. It has a very subtle fade, just so it's not quite so quick in your face. You can set this to whatever you want. You can make sure, oh, by default, I always want things to kind of fade in slowly. Set it to maybe 150, maybe 200. After about 150, 200, it gets pretty noticeable. For me, 75, I feel like it's just right. It comes on, but it's not just immediately just a bam, you know, all on or off. Anyway, totally subjective. But you can set a default fade for all of your lights, and they'll behave that and they'll follow that unless within a specific show you go through and you override that on the specific LEDs. And that's what took me a while to figure out, like, where do I define this? Can I define this in my parent show when I'm calling the show where I set my color tokens? I thought you could. Maybe you can, but if you can, I haven't figured out how to do it. I've tried 20 million different approaches and it kept giving me an error. So the only way I got it to work was within the specific show. I can go back over here. I can go to my show. I say, oh, I set my LEDs to this color, whether it's an individual LED or a group of them by tags. Set the color and then just do hyphen, the letter F for fade, whatever speed you want. So I slowed this down to an 800 millisecond. We'll show you here the animations in a second. Anyway, so it's going to fade into color 1. And then for this show, after I said about 10 seconds, and again, I speed this up, but after about 10 seconds, I want the next step to be to fade into color 2. And what this fade at the LED level actually is going to say is not just fading into that color, but since I never turned the other color off, it's going to fade from that color into this color, which means MPF's going to naturally kind of interpolate between whatever color 1 was, red, and color 2 is blue. So I'm going to get a little purple in between, okay? At least that's what I saw. Maybe not. Actually, now that I'm saying it, I think it's more the red just fades off and the blue fades in. There's still a little bit of overlap. Anyway, we'll play it back. I'll pay more attention. Let's see. Do we get a color blend or not? I think we're going to get a very simple color blend. It's really just going to be red percentages going down, blue percentages coming up. So there will be a moment of overlap, kind of half power in between, where we should get a little bit of purple. I'm pretty sure. We'll check. Anyway, but I know it definitely, at least the strength of the LED is definitely being faded on and off from that other one. So you'll fade into one, into the next, and so forth. Okay, and I'm going through 4 different colors here, just for the heck of it. Okay, and then again, back in my parent file, attract light show loop is down here. You'll see I'm saying this, not the pulse color. Here, the full play field color. I'm actually having this whole entire thing going through all 4 colors, take a maximum of 9 seconds. I sped the speed up again to about 10. So really where it says 10 seconds in my show, it's really taking about a full second, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi to change between the colors. And that's about the speed I ended up with. Again, you can control that speed here in the actual parent file, okay? And then here's my color tokens, color 1, color 2, color 3, color 4. These are some different colors, some light blues, a dark blue, a green, I think like a pink. Anyway, we'll see, okay? Hope that's making sense. This is taking longer than what I thought, but I hope it's giving you some good specific information on how I went through a couple of these types of things. All right, so we have our base shows, just turning our GI on, doing some simple chase sequences in and out, okay? We've got like this ring pulsing where some of them are turning on, some of them are turning off at every interval, boom, boom, boom. We created all those through MPF's or through Mark's ShowCreator. And then I edited them to put in the tokens. I've used tokens in the parent show when I call it, say, here's the color I want that token to be for this specific instance of the show. Here's the speed I want it to be for this specific instance of the show. I can call it the same show later on, have it go faster or slower, okay? All those type of things. And then above the parent show, inside, so those are the shows, the show files. Let's go back to our folder structure of MPF. Again, we've got within this mode, within our attract mode, we have 2 folders. We have config and shows. We've got all these different shows I played around with, the child shows and some parent shows. I named all my parent shows attract underscore because of the mode that they're in. Just help me remember them. Then my child ones are the ones that don't have attract in front of them. And then inside config, we've got another attract file. This is actually a config file for the attract mode. And inside this file is where we see, you can think of it maybe as like a parent one, but really it's different. It's a config file. So the config file for this mode is where I'm going to be able to start my different players, and I can have light players, I can have event players, I can also have a show player. All we're sticking with right now are just show players. Shows are for lights and for sounds and for music and for lots of different things. There's in the docs we'll go through and tell you what all the different types of shows, contents you can have, different types of things you can control through a show. You can control a lot through a show. You're going to be using show files, show YAML files quite a bit, parent and child files a lot. That's what the docs are telling me, and as I read through it, I can see I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be using these to control a lot of different things. Anyway, basically anytime you want something to like start and stop, pause, restart, you do all that through a show. Okay, so back here again inside our config folder, this attract file, this is the attract config file for our attract mode. I happen to call it attract because this is the attract mode, so you have to call it that, right? Inside here is where I'm saying, okay, I want there to be a show player for this mode, and when this event happens, the mode attract has started, mode attract started, I want these shows to happen. Again, the display loop from the tutorial, those are my slides on my display. And now I also, at the same time, when this event happens, .1, I want this attract light show loop, so this parent show file to also play. And the attract mode by default has an infinite loop, which means this loop, this light show, I'm calling it a loop because it's going to loop automatically. Everything inside the attract mode by default is set to loop. You can override it. I could come in here and I can say, actually, I want this to have its own settings and I want the loops to be 0, not infinite. I want it to play once and that's it. But then in this specific situation of an attract, when you're actually in that attract mode, right? It's in between a game. Well, we don't know how long that mode's going to end, or we don't really control that, right? Until the player hits start. So if it's just sitting in your basement, you know, hey, you're out on location. If it's just sitting there in your basement and the power's turned on and no one's starting a game all afternoon, well, if I put my light show loop to 0 or 1, it's going to turn on, it's going to go through it, and then it's just going to stop. And everything's going to be left in that last state, either all on or all off, and that's it, right? Until that attract mode starts all over again, which really only happens when a game ends. So anyway, so for attract modes, you're not really ever going to want to do this. Unless you really have some specific reason you want one to start and one to stop, and then maybe when a different event happens within the attract mode, but there's not a lot of other events happening. Anyway, to keep it simple, I think 99% of us, we're not going to mess with the loop settings inside here. We're going to create a light show. We're going to create a set of sounds, maybe. We're going to create a set of slides for our display, and we're just going to want those shows to loop indefinitely. Okay. And again, within the parent show, so this attract light show loop, if we step down out of the config file down to the parent show, that's where we're going to set what actual individual shows are going to get played at the same time, one after the other, how long they're going to play, how fast they're going to play, what colors they're going to play. All those settings will be down inside those parent shows and child show files. All right, enough talk. I hope that was helpful. For me, it took me a while to figure out where to put my fades. You can put them at the top level of your actual lights, you know, like a default one for your whole entire machine. You can put them within a specific child show and say, for this show, I want this light fading at this speed, or this group of lights fading. Okay, you can do that. But it's for that specific time instance. And then what else? Tokens, fades, tags. I think those are kind of the three main things that I played around with that don't happen naturally inside Mark ShowCreator. You're going to need to take those files. You're going to need to do a little bit of editing. Sometimes you'll want to use tokens. Sometimes you won't care. It's really simple. I'm just going to set the color, Steve, and I know that's what I'm doing. Hey, that's great. Okay. There's times tokens aren't really beneficial, I'm sure, right? The tags, sometimes you'll use them. Sometimes I'm calling very specific LEDs. But anyway, that's the type of editing that I've done to my files. Let me load up and show you what my final one actually looks like. Again, still waiting for the warmer weather. It's supposed to hit this weekend, so I can go spray the clear coat. Hopefully not kill myself. I might have to shave my beard. But I have something coming on the way that might get me around that. I think I found a full hood respirator. We'll see if it's going to work or not. Anyway, let me go through and show you. I think we're back to my actual loops and all that kind of stuff. So let's see what this looks like. We'll bring up, it's got my slides going. Those are starting, and now over here, in MPF monitor, here's the light shows. I've got those individual chases, and now I've got something that's kind of sweeping up the playfield and then flashing. Green, blue, sweeping, flashes, and now we've got the rings in red coming out from the center, green out from the center, blue out from the center. And then after that, we just got these color fades. Yeah, so fading between the colors, a little bit of purple, blue, red, cyan, green, and orange, purple. And those just kind of are fading up and down. And then that whole thing starts all over again, because the track will go on forever. So I've got individual ones chasing. Then I've got this sweep up the field going up, okay, from the inside out. And then we've got the rings going. Some basic things, right? Sky's the limit. After the weekend, I said, all right, I spent a weekend on it. I'm done. We'll call it good. That's enough for right now. The next thing I want to do, I don't want to go too crazy with all these till I actually get my LEDs connected to my playfield and I can actually see them in person. Like, I can't wait to actually see the playfield and the inserts light up with our diffusers, with everything. And then to get that piece of acrylic in there and get some lights around that, I still need to get some ribbon lights. Thank you. I forget who it was that gave me that recommendation, but you're absolutely right. I need just like a strip of LEDs around that mounted somehow. That's going to give me the best illumination and minimal like hot spots. Anyway, got to get that acrylic mounted on there, but we're getting there, guys. We're getting there so close. Okay, I hope this helps you between using Mark ShowCreator and then some of the things you're probably still going to need to edit by hand a little bit. Anyway, hope it's helpful. We probably went on for like a half hour, 3 times as long as we needed to. I'm sorry, Alex. I'm so wordy. All right, okay, guys. Thanks so much for coming along. Again, I hope this has been helpful. If you haven't started your own pinball custom project yet, why not? If I can do it, you can do it. There's so much good content out there, okay? The docs for Mission Pinball Framework, there's so many people doing so many great things. We can all learn from each other. So jump in, you're not gonna drown. We'll throw you a lifeline, we'll bring you along for the ride. It's gonna take time, okay? But it's a fun project. So anyways, I highly encourage you to do it. All right, everybody, until next time, hopefully with a clear-coated playfield, we'll catch you later. Thanks, guys, bye-bye.